Thank you, Mr. Rajan. Pradeep Multani ji, Ms. Rupinder Brar, officials of West Bengal Tourism Department, other dignitaries on the panel of speakers, listeners and viewers, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks PhD Chamber once again for inviting me to the webinar. And every time when I speak, I wish to reiterate my appreciation to the Tourism Ministry and to the PhD Chamber for starting the series of border tourism to showcase yet another lesser known and untapped product of Incredible India. In fact, I would go on further to say that West Bengal is a state where the potential of the state is still untapped. I have the privilege of traveling to almost all parts of West Bengal when I was in the Election Commission. And I have found it to be one of the most incredible states and unexplored, I would say, from tourism point of view. Ladies and gentlemen, when we focus on West Bengal, today the uniqueness about West Bengal is that you can not only watch the neighboring three countries from the border, from the Indian land, but you can also walk into at least two out of three countries, Nepal and Bhutan. And rightly, as Mr. Datta has mentioned, West Bengal is the potential gateway for cross-border tourism, and one has to explore these the possibilities. In fact, I would say that while we are looking east as per our foreign policy and acting east, if you stand in West Bengal, you can travel to west, you can travel to north, you can travel to east as far as the cross-border tourism is concerned. So friends, I will take you to the three countries which border West Bengal one by one, and would like to flag the attractions and the key destinations that we have in the adjoining countries and in the border districts from where you can watch the neighboring countries. I would take Bangladesh first. Friends, the international India-Bangladesh border is very long, more than 4,000 kilometers, and it is the fifth largest land border in the world. And West Bengal, out of this total 4,000 kilometers, West Bengal has more than 50% of the total share. Now, this border is also historically called as Red Cliff Line, and it was published as early as 17th August 1947, so 2 days after India got independence, and after the name of Sir Cyril Radcliffe. So Radcliffe International Boundary Line itself is a historically important, I would say, a destination for the border travelers to explore. And friends, on reaching West Bengal, you have many options to reach the border region adjoining Bangladesh. You can walk in through Petrapol checkpost crossing. You can go from Mahadipur. You can go from Changrabandha. You can go from Hilli. And of course, Murshidabad is one of the potential border districts. Now, friends, a road journey is the predominant mode of reaching these borders. However, there is also a very exciting and convenient mode to reach Indo-Bangladesh border. We are aware of the fact that two passenger trains run between Kolkata and Bangladesh. One is Maitri Express and the other is Bandhan Express. So this Maitri Express, as you know, restarted in 2008 after many years, and it crosses the Gede Darshana border. Gede is in Nadia district of West Bengal. And Bandhan Express was started very recently in 2017 from Kolkata to Khulna. And this crosses the border at Petrapol, Benapol border, Petrapol on Indian side and Benapol on the Bangladesh side. So, ladies and gentlemen, this can be another attraction and exciting way to travel to the border districts of West Bengal. In today's webinar, as Sulagna has also shown a lot of destinations of Murshidabad. There has been a presentation from Mr. Darshan also about what all lies in Murshidabad. I would like to spend some time to speak as to why you should visit Murshidabad for the purpose of border tourism. So friends, on one hand, this district has a very huge border with western part of Bangladesh. At the same time, I would say that Murshidabad is also one of the lesser known but very significant historical destination, which speaks volumes about the modern history in this part of our country. Now, Murshidabad has already been mentioned in the presentation also. I would not like to go into the detail, but being the last capital of city of independent Bengal before British rule, it was named after Nawab Murshid Ali Khan, the then Diwan of Bengal. So it has a lot of history. And then it became capital of Bengal in 1770. Another very interesting history about Murshidabad is that Battle of Plassey, the famous Battle of Plassey, which we all have read when we were students of history, is only 40 kilometers from Murshidabad. So the rich history of Murshidabad is another attraction. And today, if you go as a traveler to this district, you will find that there are large number of heritage monuments which symbolize, the heritage character of Murshidabad. I would not like to go into the details, and Sulagna has already shown in her presentation. Hazardwari, Nizammat, Imam Bada was built in 1847. Katra Masjid was built in 1723-80. Roshni Bagh in 1730. And in fact, another interesting location is Jahan Kosha Cannon. It is a 17-feet cannon called as the Great Gun. And at that time, it was called as the destroyer of the world. So you can imagine, a cannon could destroy the world. And this is a perception, how strong and what kind of perception people must be having and scare and fear of this great cannon, which Murshidabad has. And there are many more historical monuments. I won't like to go into the details. So visiting Murshidabad is not only to visit the Indo-Bangladesh border, it is also to see one of the best known but lesser known heritage towns of India. I'll come to Nepal, into Nepal border now, friends. And getting into Nepal from West Bengal and Indian border is very smooth and seamless process. As we all know, there's a free movement between these two neighboring countries. So friends, you can cross the border from Darjeeling. And Panitanki is a town in Darjeeling district, which takes you to Kakarbita border on the other side. And this Panitanki is not very far from Darjeeling. It's just about 84 kilometers. Now, the good thing about these destinations is that not just Murshidabad, even if you talk of Panitanki, it has a railway station very close. And of course, reaching Darjeeling is not a big issue, as we all know. So in the, reaching Panitanki and reaching Indo-Nepal border from West Bengal is very easy to access. Even otherwise, Nepal border is not difficult from UP side and other places. But since we are talking of West Bengal, so that is one. Now, Bagdogra airport is not very far, so you have an access to the air connectivity also, very good. And of course, when you go to the Nepal border from West Bengal side, you pass through Darjeeling. And Darjeeling, of course, I don't need to mention about Darjeeling. So you have the best of the two worlds. You are seeing a border region, you are seeing the natural beauty around, and you are visiting Darjeeling as well. So friends, and the good news in favor of the border tourism for West Bengal particularly is that the government of India has very recently decided to set up integrated checkposts at Panitanki. In fact, these integrated checkposts will not only ease the physical discomfort which have been felt by the people crossing the border region, but will also ensure the improved trade and commerce with Nepal. As you know, India and Nepal, there's a lot of trade and commerce happening. And there are many hiccups also, there are many issues, related to movement of traffic, movement of tourism, movement of trade and commerce. So, and it will also strengthen the national security along the porous Indo-Nepal border. So in fact, not just Nepal, I would like to tell the audience, that the government of India is setting up 5 more integrated checkposts on the Indo-Bangladesh border in West Bengal. Some of them I have already mentioned: Changrabandha in Cooch Behar, then Phulbari in Jalpaiguri, Hili in South Dinajpur, Mahdipur in Malda, and Goja Danga in North 24 Pargana. Now these checkposts, and in fact, one ICP, that is integrated checkpost, is also being set up on Indo-Bhutan border at Jaigaon in Alipurduar district. In fact, Jaigaon happens to be the only entry point for Indo-Bhutan movement of the people or reaching to the border. So coming to the third country, that is Bhutan, as I mentioned, you can enter through Jaigaon border crossing in the Alipurduar district in West Bengal, and on the other side you have Phund Sholing place called in Bhutan, which is the border town on the other side. And in fact, the India and Bhutan share a common border of almost 700 kilometers, and out of which West Bengal has 183 kilometers of boundary with Bhutan. Now, friends, when you visit this district for border tourism, you will find many more attractions. I'm talking of Bhutan and India border. I have been to Cooch Behar, I have been to Jalpaiguri, I have been to Siliguri and all these areas. I mean, Chicken's Neck is, of course, one very major attraction, but there's nothing much to see as such. But my point is that it is not only a natural beauty, having rivers, streams, hills, and forests. You can also have a unique experience of tea gardens in this area. And therefore, if you go to Alipurduar, to go to the Indo-Bhutan border, you can also be exposed to tea tourism, and this is something which is becoming a big attraction, uprising area where people are very interested to go and pluck tea and all. Apart from rural tourism, going to the tea gardens and plucking tea is a major attraction for people. So, ladies and gentlemen, there are many positives and favorable factors in favor of visiting the border districts of West Bengal. I will count them in order to, to sum up. One is you can watch multiple countries. One visit to West Bengal, 3 countries. And as I mentioned, only Arunachal Pradesh is the state which has 3 countries next to it, or the neighboring countries. So I would say West Bengal, of all the states or border districts in India, West Bengal is the state which has the maximum number of countries adjoining, and where you can actually not just get into border tourism, but also go into the cross-border tourism. So that is my second point I wanted to sum up in terms of the attractions, that you can go into the Nepal border, you can go into into Bhutan, and as you know, there is no visa for Nepal, there is no visa for Bhutan. You can just have your travel documents, your latest passport, and of course your identity card, and you can reach or enter into these borders. Another feature which I would like to sum up in terms of the overall attraction of West Bengal to visit as a border tourism state. You have the nature and ecotourism to Darjeeling, Jalpaiguri, as I mentioned, close to the Himalayas. You have heritage tourism in Murshidabad. You have hill tourism in Darjeeling. You have tea tourism in Jalpaiguri, in Siliguri, in Darjeeling also. You can enjoy train tourism. In fact, Darjeeling, as you know, has a heritage toy train. So that is a big attraction. Apart from that, I have told you, India-Bangladesh trains. So while you visit border, you are also exposed to many verticals and many themes of tourism within the state. So it's like the best of the 2 worlds, as I mentioned. And of course, last but not the least, when you visit Bengal, let us not forget the famous Bengali sweets, which travelers can savor anywhere in the state. And after all, West Bengal tourism calls their state as the sweetest part of India. So I think the sweet part also is one of the attractions when somebody visits West Bengal. Now, having discussed the positives, ladies and gentlemen, I consider it my responsibility as a former secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, to flag certain issues before the stakeholders, whether central government, whether state tourism department or travel trade of West Bengal. First is connectivity. In fact, air connectivity and train connectivity, I would say, are relatively good in West Bengal, especially to reach to the border areas. But roads being the predominant way to travel to border districts, I would say that there is a need for improving road infrastructure and, of course, the last mile connectivity. I will not go into the details because of the time constraint. For air infrastructure, of course, there is a scope under the regional connectivity scheme to have some more small airstrips and to maybe revive some airstrips. But apart from that, the point which I'm trying to make now is that there is a lot of scope for heli tourism and use of helicopters for the movement within the state. In fact, I remember you have Bal Dogra, and West Bengal, if you see from Kolkata to going to Jalpaiguri or the northern part of West Bengal, is a huge, you don't, it doesn't seem to be a long distance, but it's quite a, distance, between these two places. Now, helicopter is a very useful, I would say, mode, for a state like West Bengal, apart from northeastern states. In fact, I had the privilege of moving around within West Bengal, by helicopter during the elections, and it was quite a good experience. You can reach very fast. So you can think of helipads, to be constructed in various places, the border areas. So this access problem, the connectivity issue will be addressed if you have some heli services. Today, the contractual services can also be given. In fact, many states have done, Madhya Pradesh has done, J&K has done. Similarly, if West Bengal has not done it so far, I would request the ministry and the state government to see whether this could be a possibility. The third thing that I like to mention is creation of tourism infrastructure around the border, or maybe at the border district. Now, tourism hubs at borders, like accommodation. Now, within accommodation, I'm not expecting a 5-star hotels. When you go to the border, you go in the morning, come in the evening, you don't have to stay there. Maximum you can stay for the night. So things like, some luxury Yatri Nivas, one night stays, accommodation like homestays, people can give their rooms for a day or two, for people visiting that area. Similarly, in fact, I would like to recall one very good example on the Indo-Bhutan border at Alipurduar. It's just about few kilometers from, I think, right on the border. I've not seen it. The government has made some cottages close to border, and now it has become like a tourism hub. So when a traveler goes there, he's not going to touch the boundary and come back. He's not going to see the boundary, take some snaps of the land, beyond his country, or the mountains and lakes and all beyond his country, and then come back. He wants to enjoy, he wants to experience, he wants to stay very comfortably. He should be mentally relaxed, he should be physically relaxed. So that kind of good experience has to be built in when we want to promote border tourism. Next point is that West Bengal, I would request the state of West Bengal department officers who are present today in the panel, that the Swadesh Darshan project of Ministry of Tourism should be tapped by West Bengal even more. And this time, you could make projects for developing infrastructure at the border districts, because you have such a rich state, in terms of border districts. And I've already mentioned, Sulagna has also mentioned, there are a number of districts, 11, 12 districts that are joining the one or the other country. So make projects under this. When I was Secretary Tourism, we did approve some projects for beach tourism. But border tourism is a later subject, so I think you should dwell on this point as well. Then facilitation at the borders. Now, integrated checkposts is one very good initiative, but I would request the West Bengal government and the ministry also to, from time to time, look into the issues of movement of tourists between these borders. I'm talking of cross-border tourism. We hear a lot of complaints, especially at the Nepal border. Now, those has to be phased out. Long queues, people waiting. Even if there is no visa, people wait. Now, that kind of thing is a deterrent to people who wish to go through the borders. And finally, the safety and security at the international border. And friends, in some of the areas in Nepal and other places, one has found and heard that there are illegal activities happening from time to time. So the security and safety of travelers in these areas, because this perception has to be dispelled, and that there is insecurity, or there can be a possibility of even along the Bangladesh border. So the ministry or the department, the state has to dispel this fear that coming to the border districts of West Bengal is very safe, and you should change the perception of the people. And last but not the least, of course, promoting the border tourism as we are doing today through the platform of PhD CCI. But I would also suggest, we had a representative from IATO and we had other travel trade representative here in the panel. I would say that ministry and the state government should initiate some familiarization trips, stamp trips for the travel trade from all over the country, and also the potential investors who can think of investing something, in the border districts. Ladies and gentlemen, these suggestions are primarily aimed to improve border tourism in the state. I'm aware of the fact that both ministry and the state of West Bengal must be working very hard towards addressing these and all other issues, and I wish them all the best in this endeavor. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to stop here, and before I conclude, my thanks once again to PhD CCI to give me this opportunity to share my knowledge, my experience, my thoughts. And I would certainly like to thank the listeners and viewers for giving me a very patient hearing. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Zutshi, for again your valuable, knowledgeable points which you have shared. And I think Mr. Devajit Datta and Mr. Darshan, I can see from their eyes that they have learned so many things from you. And I remember when we used to visit your office as a Secretary Tourism, you always give us so many other suggestions, and you want that we should always do something big for the tourism and travel industry. So I think thank you very much once again for sharing these valuable suggestions and your knowledge and your experience.